Hey boys, it's HarmNone. Today we're going to be going over the top 10 Imani Tech vehicles in Grand Theft Auto Online. Now, Imani Tech was originally added with the contract DLC in Grand Theft Auto Online, and with that DLC we got about 6 vehicles that were capable of having Imani Tech. Now, since the contract DLC has come out, obviously we've had a few more small updates to Grand Theft Auto Online with the criminal enterprises, as well as the release of the expanded and enhanced edition on the new gen consoles. Now, because of these last 3 updates, we do officially have 10 Imani Tech vehicles to go over, so we're going to go ahead and get started with those right now. What I will ask is that if you enjoyed this video, a like is of course appreciated, if not dislike, subscribe if you guys are new, and let's go ahead and get started with number 10. So to start off the list, we of course have the Mammoth Patriot Mil-Spec. Now, a lot of people really love the Patriot Mil-Spec, me included, but I do feel like as an Imani Tech vehicle and out of the Imani Tech vehicles that are in Grand Theft Auto Online, the Mammoth Patriot Mil-Spec is probably the weakest of the bunch. Now, that's not to say that this thing is a bad vehicle. Of course, this is one of the original Imani Tech vehicles that was added with the contract DLC, so it gets access to front-mounted machine guns that are optional to be put on the vehicle, an armor upgrade which will allow it to take up to 4 homing missiles, a missile lock-on jammer or a remote control device, and of course an oil slick proximity mine dropper so that you can drop proximity mines behind you to try to spin out whoever's chasing you. Now, the Patriot Mil-Spec is a pretty good vehicle, I have to say. However, what I don't like about this thing is just how slow it is. Unfortunately, the acceleration is not that great, and it's got me killed a few times because I'm unable to get out of a situation that I need to get out of fast enough. The handling is also a little bit subpar in my opinion. Now, I'm not saying that a Humvee should have the greatest handling ever. I'm aware that this vehicle should probably not be judged in the handling or acceleration or just general performance department, but unfortunately for people who are going to be butthurt over this, these things do actually matter. So the Patriot Mil-Spec is your Imani Tech vehicle at number 10. Let's move on to number 9. Next up at number 9, we have the Enus Deity coming in at about $1.3 million. Now, the Enus Deity is the second worst Imani Tech vehicle in Grand Theft Auto Online in my opinion. Honestly, this thing and the Patriot Mil-Spec just aren't that good, so they're kind of interchangeable. If you wanted to put this thing at number 10, I would not be mad. And if you wanted to put the Patriot at number 9, I wouldn't be mad about that either. Now, this was also added with the contract DLC, so it gets the exact same Imani Tech upgrades as well as the machine guns, the armor, and of course the oil slick proximity mine dropper. Now, the only reason that I've placed the Enus Deity ahead of the Patriot Mil-Spec is because this car's performance is just generally better, and it is a 4-door very similar to the Patriot Mil-Spec. The only thing that this thing is not as good at is off-roading. Now, the Patriot Mil-Spec really sucks at off-roading, but even still it is a much better off-roader than the Enus Deity. But as far as on-road performance goes, the Enus Deity is far superior to the Patriot Mil-Spec. It handles better, it accelerates harder and faster, and overall I do feel like it is just generally a better car. So that's pretty much it for the Enus Deity at number 9. Let's move on to number 8. Next up at number 8, we have the Bravado Greenwood. Now, this is the second cheapest Imani Tech vehicle in the entire game, coming in at $1.1 million, and of course this was added with the Criminal Enterprises DLC. Now, the Greenwood is a pretty good car, I have to say. I do actually like this thing quite a lot. However, its only problem really is that it doesn't have the greatest performance. Now, don't get me wrong, it's very quick in a straight line, but the handling is a little bit sketchy sometimes. This thing is obviously an older muscle car, so it's not gonna have the greatest handling. We already kind of knew that. I mean, if you know anything about old muscle cars, you know that they, generally don't handle the greatest. Now, the Greenwood is of course a 4-door vehicle as well as the other 2 that we've already gone over, so you can transport some friends in this thing. However, this was added with the Criminal Enterprises DLC, so the Imani Tech upgrades for the Greenwood are a little bit different than some of the other Imani Tech vehicles. The Bravado Greenwood has an armor upgrade, but it does have a lack of a machine gun upgrade. It does also have the oil slick proximity mine dropper upgrade that you can do to it, but of course with the lack of machine guns you lose your ability to attack people other than with handheld weapons or explosives. However, what you get for losing the machine gun upgrade is an added bonus to the armor upgrade. Now, with the armor on the regular Imani Tech vehicles, you can take 4 homing missiles. However, with this thing, you can take 12. with the armor upgrade equipped, which is pretty nuts. 12 is an absolute ton. Couple that with the missile lock-on jammer, and this car is going to be very, very good for survivability. The thing that it does lose with the armor upgrade though is its bullet resistant windows. The other vehicles that were added with the contract DLC do have bullet resistant windows up to 15 bullets from an assault rifle. So the Bravado Greenwood has kind of subpar handling, and it does have the missing machine guns as well as the bullet resistant windows, but it does have much better armor than any other Imani Tech vehicles that were added previous to the Criminal Enterprises DLC. So the Greenwood is a pretty good vehicle, however it's just not quite the best, but for $1.1 million you really cannot go wrong with this vehicle. So that's it for the Greenwood. Let's move on to number 7. Next up at number 7 we have the Dubachi Champion. Now the Dubachi Champion is a more expensive Imani Tech vehicle, going for about $2.2 million with the trade price unlocked, or $3 million for full price. So it is a little bit on the expensive side even for the cars that we've already gone over, but even as far as all of the Imani Tech vehicles, this is one of the more expensive ones. Now the Dubachi Champion is within the supercars category, however, being in the supercars category does not necessarily mean it's got the best performance. In fact, the Bravado Buffalo STX, which is another Imani Tech vehicle, is actually faster around a circuit than the Dubachi Champion, which is pretty crazy to think about because that is a muscle car. Now this is not to say that the Champion is a bad performing vehicle. It feels great to drive, it has decent handling, it's got pretty quick acceleration, and an okay top speed. Of course, on top of all of this, it does have an armor upgrade, it does have a front mounted machine guns upgrade, and it does of course have the oil slick proximity mine dropper upgrade as well. The Champion is actually one of my favorite Imani Tech vehicles in Grand Theft Auto Online, however it's just not quite the best, especially at its price point. There are several Imani Tech vehicles, even some of the ones we've gone over previously, that are really, really good and basically do the same thing with just a bit less performance, but they're also a lot less money. The Champion is a fantastic car and I absolutely love this thing. I do recommend picking it up, but if you only need one Imani Tech vehicle, I would go for something other than the Champion because this thing is just too expensive. And I will also mention that this thing is somewhere in the 30s as far as supercar lap times around a track. It is very, very slow in comparison to a lot of the other supercars in Grand Theft Auto Online. So that's pretty much it for the Dubachi Champion. This thing's awesome, but it's also kind of not at the same time. So that's a shame, but it's time to move on to number 6. So let's get into it. Next up at number 6, we have the Enus Jubilee. Now the Enus Jubilee is a little bit on the expensive side, however it's not really that bad. It goes for $1.2 million if you have the trade price unlocked, and $1.65 million if you do not have the trade price unlocked. The Enus Jubilee, when it first came out, was my favorite Imani Tech vehicle in the game, but since some newer ones have come out as well, it has since dropped a little bit in my personal ranking. It's not to say that it is a bad car though. This thing is of course all-wheel drive, it does come in the form of an SUV, and it was added with the contract DLC, so it has access to front-mounted machine guns, the armor upgrade that allows you to take 4 missiles, with bullet-resistant windows, and of course the oil-slick proximity mine dropper as well. The Enus Jubilee is also one of the fastest SUVs in Grand Theft Auto Online. I think it currently ranks as about number 7 out of all the SUVs in the entire game around a track, so it's pretty damn quick, I gotta say. I do like driving this thing. It is very nice to drive in a straight line. It has really good handling as well for an SUV. It's based off of the Rolls-Royce Cullinan in real life, which is a pretty cool vehicle. And there's really nothing that I have to say that's bad about this thing. It's all positives. It's just all of the Imani Tech vehicles ahead of this thing are just a little tiny bit better, in my opinion at least. So that's pretty much it for the Enus Jubilee at number 6. Let's move on to number 5. Next up at number 5, we have the Grainger 3600 LX. Now this is the cheapest Imani Tech vehicle in the entire game, and for that reason it is ranked a little bit higher than some of the other ones because this thing also has a lot of great features. This is of course another Imani Tech vehicle that was added with the contract DLC, so it does have the same armor, the same front mounted machine guns, and the same oil slick proximity mine dropper, as well as the same bullet resistant windows as some of the other cars we've previously mentioned. The Grainger goes for just over $1 million if you have the trade price unlocked, so it is by far the cheapest Imani Tech vehicle by about $100,000. Of course, once you have the trade price unlocked. The Grainger 3600 has pretty decent performance, although it is actually technically slower than the previous rendition of the Grainger, which is of course the 3500 that came out with Grand Theft Auto 5. That is something to keep in mind, but that's not to say that this thing is slow by any means. I still love this thing's performance, and it is a fantastic off-road vehicle. As far as customization goes, the Granger 3600 has an absolute ton of it, and it looks really cool with its armor upgrade equipped. Overall, the Granger 3600 LX is definitely the 5th best Imani Tech vehicle in Grand Theft Auto Online, but it is far from the best, so let's go ahead and move into number 4. Next up at number 4, we have the previous best Imani Tech vehicle in Grand Theft Auto Online. This is, of course, the Bravado Buffalo STX. Now, the STX goes for $1.6 million if you have the trade price unlocked, and about $2.1 million if you do not have the trade price unlocked. The STX is also currently the fastest muscle car in the entire game around a circuit, very narrowly beating out the Declasse Vigoro ZX regular version. This thing is technically slower than the Vigoro ZX HSW, but if you're not counting HSW cars, this is still the fastest muscle car around a circuit in Grand Theft Auto Online. The STX, like every other vehicle that we've gone over except for the Champion, is also a 4-seater. So you can carry around 3 of your friends in this thing. And of course, this was added with the contract DLC, so it has the original rendition of Imani Tech upgrades, which are the front-mounted machine guns, the oil slick proximity mine dropper, and of course, the armor that adds bullet-resistant windows up to 15 rounds, and of course, the ability to take 4 homing missiles. The STX, in my opinion, is still one of the best Imani Tech vehicles in the entire game. It has really good grip, really good handling, great acceleration, and a pretty decent top speed as well. So there's really nothing to dislike about the Bravado Buffalo STX, and on top of that, it's based off of a modern-day Dodge Charger, which we had been waiting to get into Grand Theft Auto Online for such a long time when this thing was released. It also has tons of customization and is overall a fantastic vehicle, and I 100% recommend picking it up, and especially at its price point of 1.6 million, it's a really good deal. So that's it for the STX. Let's move on to the big 3. Next up, we have the Weaponized Ignis. Now, the Weaponized Ignis is exclusive to the expanded and enhanced edition of Grand Theft Auto Online. This vehicle goes for $3.3 million, and for $3.3 million, you really cannot go wrong with this car. If you don't own this on the expanded and enhanced edition, you are making a mistake. You should pick one of these up as soon as you possibly can. This vehicle comes with the lock-on jammer automatically equipped on it, and technically it does not offer the option for a remote control device. It does have bullet resistant windows, and it does have pretty good armor, although there is no armor upgrade for this vehicle. What it does get access to, though, is the top-mounted minigun turret, which, as you guys can see, does an absolute ton of damage. This thing destroys anything that you shoot at in a very rapid succession. The Weaponized Ignis also gets access to a second bar of acceleration when you're upgrading it, so it's extremely fast in a straight line. It accelerates extremely hard. It also has very good handling because obviously it is an Ignis, so it's bound to have good handling. It has all-wheel drive. Overall, there's really nothing bad to say about this car. It is a fantastic vehicle. So that's it for the Weaponized Ignis at number 3. It's time to move on to number 2. Next up at number 2, we have the Obey Omni EGT. Now, this was added with the Criminal Enterprises DLC into Grand Theft Auto Online, and it shares the same Imani Tech and upgrades as the Bravado Greenwood, only in a much better overall package. Now, the Obey Omni EGT goes for about $1.8 million, so it is a little bit more on the expensive side. However, the card that you get for that price is far better than any other Imani Tech vehicle that we've gone over so far. The EGT is, of course, an electric vehicle, so it is fully electric, which means it has lightning fast acceleration. This thing is all-wheel drive, and it accelerates extremely hard. It also has a good amount of customization, and like I said, it shares the same upgrades as the Bravado Greenwood. So you get the option to have a missile lock-on jammer or a remote control device on this car. You also lose your ability to have the front-mounted machine guns equipped, but the armor upgrade for this car does allow it to take 12 homing missiles, so it does have far better armor protection than most of the other Imani Tech vehicles in the game. It also loses out on its bullet-resistant windows, but honestly, it doesn't really matter because you're going to be going so fast that they're going to be pretty hard-pressed to hit you anyways. And of course, it does maintain its ability to have an oil slick proximity mine dropper, so you can spin out anybody who's chasing you down. Overall, the Obey Omni EGT is an absolutely fantastic car, and I do think that on last-gen consoles, it is the best Imani Tech vehicle in the entire game. This thing has really heavy armor. With the missile lock-on jammer, you're pretty much invincible in this car, unless you're playing like an idiot. So that's pretty much it for the Obey Omni EGT at number 2. It's time to move on to the number 1 Imani Tech vehicle in Grand Theft Auto Online. And of course, at number 1, we have the Weaponized Ignis HSW. Now this is the same Weaponized Ignis that I showed you guys at number 3, however with an HSW upgrade which costs $500,000. Now this does improve the top speed of the car and it improves the acceleration even further, making this one of the hardest accelerating cars in the entire game and also giving it a higher top speed than 95% of the vehicles in Grand Theft Auto Online. Now with this, you do still get the same great handling, you still do get the top mounted minigun on this vehicle, the armor, and the bullet resistant windows. The Weaponized Ignis HSW is the best Imani Tech vehicle in Grand Theft Auto Online by a long shot. Obviously, using this thing, you can also do the HSW time trial, which will allow you to recoup some of the money that you spend on it every single week. It's very good in PvP, and it automatically has the missile lock-on jammer equipped on it. However, it does not have the ability to have the remote control device equipped, but who really cares? You're driving a super fast Lamborghini with a minigun on the roof. It's gonna be fine. And if you guys are on the expanded and enhanced edition of Grand Theft Auto Online, this is by far the best Imani Tech vehicle in the entire game. So you should definitely pick one of these things up. Anyway guys, there you have it. Those are the top 10 Imani Tech vehicles in Grand Theft Auto Online. If more Imani Tech vehicles are released into Grand Theft Auto Online, I will make a video updating this list. However, I feel like this is going to be solid for right now. If you guys enjoyed this video, like I said at the start, a like is of course appreciated, if not dislike. Subscribe if you guys are new, and I will see you all in the next video. Until then, take care. Peace.